Hello everyone, welcome back to Spiritual Growth Tarot and Astrology, and of course this is your astrology reading, and it's for the week of, we're going to cover all the astrological transits for the week of October 23rd through the 29th. Man, it's Scorpio season, busting loose beautifully, and I love it. So yeah, we have the sun goes into Scorpio, Mercury goes into Scorpio, and right in the middle of it, well, besides Jupiter is going to retrograde back into Pisces, so that's going to be nice too. I'm going to really enjoy that. And then also we have the new moon solar eclipse happening at 2 degrees Scorpio. So anyway, let me bring the camera down over here overhead, and I'll show you all these charts and get you through it as quickly as I can. Okay, hold on. Okay, so one of the most important things to remember is that Mars right here at 25 degrees Gemini, Mars usually just takes about a month and a half to get through a sign. It only takes 2 years to get all the way around the chart. But Mars is going to be going retrograde next Sunday. So I don't have that included here in these charts, but just to know that, before a planet goes retrograde, it's kind of like they call it stationing. So it's basically Mars is just going to be sitting here. It's not going to be moving. And that's why I want to focus in on it, because it's going to be squaring Neptune. Today it's squaring Jupiter. I think throughout the week that's the case too, because Jupiter is not moving much, but it will further into the week. It will actually move back to Pisces. But anyway, I'll go over a little bit more about what the planets, what they mean to me in terms of our human evolution, and in terms of how they're holding space for us to grow in the universe. So Mars squaring Neptune, which is going to be for months, because it's going to go retrograde. Neptune's just going to sit there. I mean, it's going to take a really long time for it to move even 1 degree. But the square will be happening for quite some time. So what are we going through right now on planet Earth? Doesn't matter which part of the world we live in. We're all going through this need to figure things out for ourselves and move, proceed accordingly. Mars is a planet of action. It moves energy, but the energy has to do with communication in Gemini. It has to do with thinking, from both sides. It has to do with gathering information, has everything to do with learning new things. It has to do with negotiating. We're questioning things. We're questioning what other people are saying. And because it's square Neptune, our bullshit meters are going off left and right every time there's a lie. And we're tired. We are so tired of hearing the lies. So we're holding space for that, because of all things, Neptune is up here holding space for cosmic spiritual principles or cosmic spiritual forces, if you don't like hearing things like spiritual law. The word law doesn't trigger me, but if it does you, say spiritual principle, say cosmic love, say whatever you want to get you in that place where you can receive the information that's coming through. Because remember, Gemini is all about information, and it is ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. And we have this beautiful triple trine starting off the week from Mars. So lots of information's coming out. Probably you're going to hear consistent truth come out from some news channels and consistent lies coming out from others. And you're going to have to choose, well, which one makes me feel better, or which one, because one of them is going to fire you up and make you angry because you know they're lying. And the other one is going to feel like, yeah, we really need to go in that direction because this is loving. Because if Neptune is anything in the sign of Pisces, which it naturally rules, it is inclusive. Pisces doesn't say, you don't get to have this, only I do. Pisces does not go that direction. But if you've been in that type of a situation, like let's say you're a dirtbag, dirty, mobbed up politician, newly politician, not anymore, but let's just say you're Donald John Trump. If you're Donald John Trump and Mars is sitting on your Sun and Uranus and North Node for months on end, it's going to be right on all of his personal planets. He's not going to like it. It's not going to feel good to him. But so what's he going to do? He's going to spin more lies. He's going to play the victim. Meanwhile, he's been victimizing everybody all his life, probably from the moment he came out of the birth canal. And we're sitting over here, with this focus of energy, not only in Scorpio that goes deep and says, what? Scorpio's so good when it comes to researching and figuring out secrets and putting them out there, because Scorpio digs its heels in and says, no, you don't get past here. Because past this gateway, we're in the realms of truth and we're protecting the truth. But, there's truth can be turned into lies. That's what they call half-truths. It's still a lie. Bottom line, though, with all of this energy here in Libra and Scorpio, and with Venus in the mix with the Sun. So the Sun and Venus are going to be really, really close together. Some astrologers call it, Venus Kazemi. It's when the Venus is like in the heart of the Sun. I think it's an Arabic word. But just think of Venus as we could put the Empress, if you're into tarot, we could put the Empress card here, which is Mother Earth, everything feminine, everything that has to do with unity. So to get into some of the traits of Venus, Venus wants to be in harmony. It wants to it wants to compare things and figure out what values, it has. So we all have Venus somewhere in our charts, but right now we're getting the transit of the Sun and Venus together. So there's a lot of light coming in to shine the way, to help us figure out what really matters to us. And then we have all this information to guide us on our way. And the only thing, which is not easy, but we have to do, is to stay away from people that are angry and want to victimize themselves and just keep lying to you so that maybe they can take your money, right? Or maybe they can control you. And that is because we also, that is that statement I just said is something to reinforce, because also Pluto is up here in quincunx to Mars all week long, and probably into next week. I didn't look for, too much further. So we have a lot of nice aspects. What I am seeing, though, is that we have the challenge we can't really expand, or people who are living in the spin of lies, they're not going to be able to expand. Their sense of self is going to be threatened with Jupiter retrograde in Aries and Chiron retrograde opposing Mercury, no less. And the backdrop, even though it's not visible here, Saturn is still, but Saturn's no longer retrograde. Well, we're not out of the shadow yet, and we won't be until, I think it's I think it's almost the end of January next year. So it's just going to be sitting there. But 18 degrees here, 17 degrees here. This square is going to be in for quite some time. So a tension field here and a challenge between the rules, governmental rules, humanity, getting rules into place, getting new laws written and putting them into place and then actually enforcing them, because the people are waking up and we don't like the way the cat box smells anymore. It's time to change the cat box, right? Some people want to hold things into a different pattern so that they can just take all the money and keep it for themselves. That's why we have this, the nodes in this polarity of Taurus and Scorpio. So we're dealing with sex scandals, we're dealing with money scandals, we're dealing with, women's reproductive rights, everyone's health rights, HIPAA laws, everything. But because Venus is here, and because everything's headed towards this south node, as we get to the new moon solar eclipse, these will be tight. I mean, the moon will be up here. We'll have these three forces so tight. What I'm thinking is happening is a lot of early voting, and the conjunction will still be, it'll only be at 2 degrees here, but we're still holding space because whenever we have eclipses, they're always at one end of the node or the other. This one's the new moon solar eclipse. And solar eclipses are usually external forces that we see, and then the full moon lunar eclipses are usually more internal. So by November 8th, we'll have that full moon lunar eclipse right on voting day. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of early voting happening already because people have been gathering information and they've made their minds up. And then some people have just been drinking the Kool-Aid all along, and nothing's going to change there. It's just not. We have to just send them love, but you can't listen to them. Right? And you don't want to get in a fight with them. What do? You can't do anything other than just love them where they are and okay, we'll talk about it later, see if things change in 6 months or a year, So, yeah. So I see early voting. I see with this backdrop here with Mercury squaring Mercury trining Saturn, and then down to Mars. It puts Mercury in this focal point where there's a nice flow of energy so that now we can stabilize because Saturn stabilizes. Saturn helps us master an area of our lives. So wherever Saturn at 18 degrees Aquarius is showing up in your natal chart, you are mastering that area of your life in new ways, thinking way outside the box, more than you ever have before. And you only get those transits every 30, it takes 28, 29 years to get around, right? So we don't have those transits every, only 3 times in one lifetime, right? And usually that's if you make it to 90. So anyway, let's see, what else do I want to say? Oh, I know what I got distracted, sorry, had a squirrel moment there. Saturn is squaring Uranus, you can see, and the North Node. So remember, I always have to remind you guys that the North Node is the path, the future that we're all headed in, and the South Node is where we've been, but we have lots of wisdom there. And in charts, a lot of times astrologers won't even put in the North Node, let alone both nodes. But I really focus on the nodes because I see them as karmic. It kind of goes with like, Jyotish or Vedic astrology where it's, Rahu and Ketu. But Uranus has been joined with the North Node for quite some time. So we're headed towards the future. Uranus is a very future-oriented planet because it's all about waking up, right? Helping us to, even if we have to go through some shocks, and even if we have to split off from something or turn something around, make a U-turn, it's a catalyst, it's a force of change, and it breaks things up in the fight for freedom. And I do have back here, I'm going to show you the new moon solar eclipse in the USA Constitution chart, so make sure you stick around for that. And then I'll get the timestamps done too, so you can always go back and look. But anyway, what I meant to say, let's say, okay, Squirrel is in phase 2. Let's see if we can get her to 3. Saturn, you can see the square, that line there, 18, 17. It's still included with a node, because if we have a square here and a conjunction here, there should be actually two lines of red here to reinforce that. And most astrology programs don't place the red line opposition between the north and the south node, but it's popping through now because it's the south node opposing Uranus. That's the only reason it's there in the program. I can't force it to do it any other way. But what I wanted to say, before another squirrel comes back and gets me, this is a square here as well. Okay, so Saturn is still, this is a difference of 1 minute here, and you'll see it'll come in later on in the week, but all week long and until we get way out of this orb of, I'm going to say at least 9 degrees, I am clocking this as Saturn squaring the nodes. So there's still time for these laws to come through. Donald John Trump has been subpoenaed by January 6th committee. We'll see if they do anything about it if he doesn't show up. Of course, he's going to say he'll show up and, oh, yeah, I'll do it live because I'm the man. He'll say all kinds of crap, but will he really do it? And even if he does, we know he's going to plead the fifth, just like he already did over 400, I think it was 440 some times with Letitia James, right? And she's managed to nail his, even after he started Trump.org 2 in Delaware, and she emailed a lawsuit against Trump.org 2, so that's officially done. He doesn't have to be served. He just has to be emails are legal nowadays. Oh, they actually have been for years, but anyway. So he doesn't have to be served face to face, like you'll hear some people say on the news. That's bullshit. It just needs to be emailed through. If it goes in somebody's junk mail, that's their problem. It was sent, and it's the proof of being sent is enough. But because those papers are filed in court, right? So you get the email saying these papers are already filed in court. You don't want to respond? Fine, that's on you. But they're still there. So anyhow, Saturn is up here squaring these nodes. So what have the dirtbag politicians done in the past? What have the dirtbag money laundering, war, mongering? What have all those people done in the past? What are they doing to the women of Iran? What are they doing in, from Russia to Ukraine? We're talking genocide. That's this in the past. That is trying, and I'm not bagging on Scorpio at all. I'm saying Scorpio is about transforming that. Mars is the planet of war. And we know everything that's coming out on the news. I mean, it's just around the world. You know what's going on. And I guess, of course, what's her name? Ms. Lettuce Head or whatever, Liz Torrey, she's gone, I guess. She resigned. So, things like that. all over the world, because Pluto's in Capricorn, all over the world. And Capricorn rules the structures in our society. Well, so does Aquarius too, but the structures of the people that think they're in power, well, Pluto's transforming that, right? Pluto transforms. Pluto rules Scorpio. Mars used to be the old ruler, but it's, I go with the new ruler, because just because the planet wasn't discovered doesn't mean it wasn't there. So, but anyway, okay, let me see. So this is in effect Saturn squaring the nodes is in effect this week and next, and I don't even know how much further past that. I'll have to look. So that's the backdrop. Neptune squaring Mars is the backdrop. Jupiter squaring Mars is the backdrop all week. This Pluto with the quincunx in conjunct adjustment. When you see this green line, this 150 degrees, just think in your head, oops, I'm going to need to be making adjustments. What are the adjustments going to be to? They're going to be coming from your integrity and your power, and how do you use it? With your voice, with your thinking, with your deciphering information, and then from there, once you have the information you need, you can make those decisions, because the moon's in Libra, Mercury's in Libra, and Mercury is trining Mars. Remember, Mars is going to be sitting there, and all the personal planets are going to be moving in aspect to Mars. All right? But this is happening for quite some time. So hold on to your hats if you're a dirty politician. Good luck with that. Now, Chiron, quincunx to the south node, is lasting for quite some time too. And you can see it's exact. 13 degrees, 26 minutes to 13 degrees, 24 minutes. So this is all the adjustments we can make to heal and release the past, transform the past, so that we're no longer coming from such intensity, or we're no longer coming from a lack of balance, so that we're no longer coming from crisis. And it's also really beautiful for grief work and for healing and letting go, but connecting more deeply in, because anybody who has ever lost a loved one, or, it doesn't matter if it was a furry one or a human one, or could be a pet, iguana or whatever creature. Anyone who's ever lost any loved creature knows that there's still the ability to always connect with them in your hearts. And so you have to nurture that all the time. You'll hear people say things in the movies like, I'm so afraid I won't be able to remember her face. That usually only happens when it's like a child trying to remember their mom, and it's because they were too little, But when you're a grown adult, you've lost something or someone, some little critter or some human being. You don't forget, usually. You don't forget. What if you do forget what they look like? Fine. You're not going to ever forget the way you felt about them. So that's always there, deeply embedded in our psyches and our souls, which is what Scorpio is all about. It's deep. Deep. So this is going on. The polarity between Taurus, what we care about, positive pleasure, how we spend our money, decisions about how we do spend that money, and who we share that money with, is part of the Taurus-Scorpio axis. And we will be in this until late January next year as well. Or maybe it's mid-January. Or no, what am I saying? It's July till next summer. But as far as money goes, money in the economy, we have our own personal economy. Money is just energy. And because we are all, no matter what country we live in, we're still under this transit of Pluto in Capricorn. And, that means that it's all about coming into our own integrity. So it always makes me think of, okay, well, I have to be careful where I put my money, because my money is my power. If I want to give my money to corporations like AT&T, or what are the other ones? What's his name? Jamie Dimon over at Chase Manhattan Bank. Or, some of the other, like Home Depot. It's like, just Google. All we ever have to do is Google, do a search and see what companies, what politicians, what other type of leaders, like, I don't know, what sports, which sports people, which actors, which musicians supported Trump. And you'll get a list that'll come up. I would not doubt that there isn't a big, ongoing, growing list on Wikipedia, because don't they just track everything, right? I used to have an app on my phone, but once I got an upgrade, it left. And then I went back to look for it in the App Store, and I couldn't remember the name of it. But basically, it was updated, and it told, like, who spent the most money. So, of course, it was the Koch brothers. Now there's only one left. Of course, it was AT&T. There were a lot of them that I was shocked about. But, that's like way back in 2016, I was tracking that stuff. And that's why I canceled so many different credit cards, because they had donated heavily to the GOP. I only have one credit card now, and it's Discover, because they were the only ones I could find that were clean. I closed out other credit card accounts because of that. So if we care about true abundance, we need to do our best. Even though, we're human and it's not going to be perfect, but at least try to do our best to not support these companies who hurt our environment and hurt humanity and hurt people. And that is why we have Saturn in Aquarius squaring the nodes. Who did we spend our money with in the past? Who did we join with? And do we want to break free and move out of that? What do we want to do? It's every single human being on the planet has free will. So, well, we can't say that about kids, but not till they, well, and they they certainly have free will as to how they respond to us, don't they? But so anyway, I think that's all I need to say for the weekly overview, except, have to get into the other situations. Now, this is important here too. Jupiter, expansive Jupiter. So remember, the three cosmic forces in the universe are expansion, contraction, and stasis. So Jupiter expands, Saturn contracts, and the stasis in between is like when we're trying to integrate. So Jupiter is expanding into more courage, more winning, but win-win situations, hopefully, more asserting our unique individuality. But then we have this semi-square here to the North Node. So if you're still one of those human beings that is comparing yourself and your self-worth, your self-esteem against anyone else, you're going to need healing in that area, in that work. I mean, that's going to be your soul work, because we're meant to be free and uninhibited, unique individuals, just in our own right. We don't need, it doesn't matter what color your skin is, how you identify, what color your hair is, whether you have freckles or not. None of that matters. But if we're going to compare ourselves, against other human beings, that it's just, it violates a spiritual law. It violates the spiritual law. Just, we're never supposed to compare ourselves. But it's so human to do that, isn't it? It really is. So the reason I'm talking about that, besides this, what am I saying? Semi-square here to the North Node, just to know that we're all headed in that direction to free ourselves up, not to judge ourselves based on our beauty, so-called beauty, because beauty is an inner thing, right? But because Venus is in the mix with this new moon solar eclipse that's coming up, and the moon's in Libra, and that is ruled by Venus. Venus rules Libra and Taurus. So we really have a lot of energy and consciousness in this, finding our own unique, deciding our own unique inner beauty. And with the moon opposing Chiron, that is our work for this morning. And maybe you'll have some dreams come up that maybe you'll wake up with some dreams that'll help you wake up and go, oh, yeah, I have been judging myself against this or this or this, right? It's so human. So, but the moon opposing Chiron and actually Jupiter too. Well, yeah, because the moon's at 6, so it's sandwiched right in the middle between Jupiter and Chiron. So we do have that double opposition. Okay, so remember, I always say oppositions are like mirrors, right? There's something here and something here. So the moon can be about our ego. It can be the public too, though. And the public wants justice right now, right? And that's all we're talking about. And the moon's opposing Chiron as well. I'm sorry, Mercury is opposing Chiron. So we have quite the opposition going on here. And as the moon's, connects with Mercury, it's going to amp up the inner reflection and the communication, the decisions that we're going to need to make. And there's healing to be done with this opposition, because oppositions can lead to breakthroughs. But at first there can be that, like I was saying, the comparing, because we're trying to figure out what is going on in our relationships, or our relationship with life, our relationship with ourselves. Everything's an inside job, so it's always our relationship with ourselves, and then it's mirrored back to us through life. And either we identify with it or not, and if we don't identify with it, then we don't go in that direction, because that's not who that's not our vibe, that's not our tribe, that's not our, it's not our thing. But nowadays we're exposed to everything because of the internet, so it can get confusing, and with Mars in Gemini, that's another one of the issues we have to be careful about. So, but the best thing I can say is that there are opportunities for a lot of healing within yourself and within relationship. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to Monday. And now we do have the moon conjunct Mercury. Everything else I've said, for the last half hour is still in operation. But now there's more intensity, because the moon and Mercury are in a triple square up here to Pluto. So I really do feel like people are up, out, and voting early. Anyone who can has probably, they're working their way to the early voting already. We have the triple trine down to Mars, so there's all that energy, all the power for decisions. Now, with the square, we do have that tension field of, I'm thinking we're seeing whether or not we like certain, what's the right word or the right phrase? Certain modes of power, certain ways of using power or not. And we're making those decisions based on the fact that the truth is coming out no matter what. And do we want to get on board with that structure or not? I mean, I feel, even though there's no Aquarius or Uranus energy over here, it's over here and up here, I feel rebellion with this. because we don't want the intensity anymore. And the moon is still opposing Chiron. It's not opposing Jupiter anymore, so it's not as blown up, but it's still there, right? At least for this morning, at least for Monday. And everything else is the same. Oh, wait, except, actually, hold on. We do have this sesquisquare here up to the south node, so there can be a little bit of stubborn holding on to the past for some reason. Scorpio in the best is so good at letting go, but digging your heels down and in when you know what's right to do and you don't give up. It's as tenacious in every way as Cancer energy. Energy and consciousness. Probably Pisces energy is better at letting go, actually. But you know what? Scorpio energy is all about research and digging deep and getting into the truth. Bringing those secrets out so we can expect secrets coming out, and then people who've been trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes, they will be revealed. Right? Because the sun and Venus, man, I keep hearing sex secrets, sex scandals. Yeah. Oh my goodness. More power to E. Jean Carroll, right? So, yeah, so adjustments based on the past, because the truth finally comes out about the past. Adjustments to expanding with your ability to communicate and have any power over anyone else, because I think the truth is coming out. So for us personally, all we have to do is just be really truthful with ourselves and understand ourselves. So we have to, what is that saying? Like, know thyself. Until we know ourselves, we can't really be real with other people. But other people can certainly help us get in touch with ourselves. Absolutely. So today, the 25th, Tuesday, 3:49 a.m. Pacific time, 6:49 a.m. Eastern time, we have the new moon partial solar eclipse. And so now you can see it. 2 degrees Scorpio right here. The south node is in Scorpio, but it's not conjunct yet. You know, these planets are moving towards the south node, so things are intensifying. But remember, new moons are all about setting intentions. Because this one is conjunct Venus, it should be really good for love, relationships, money. It can, though, because of Mercury in decisive Libra and trying to balance things out in a fair way, and Mars is still sitting here going, well, we've had these conversations before, over and over and over again, and you keep lying to me, so I'm going to just head on my merry way and go somewhere else to be with somebody else that I can trust, because Scorpio is all about intimacy and trust, because you can't go deeper with somebody you can't trust. You can't go deeper with someone that you can't even trust to do their own work, right? To do their own soul work. So that's what's on the table. All the other things I've talked about for the week are still in play. And so now I'm just going to focus on the new moon solar eclipse. So if this 2 degrees 0, 2 degrees 0 minutes, exactly 2 degrees Scorpio, hits any personal planet on your chart, in your natal chart, it will be more intense for you, but it could be in a good way. It could, like, let's say it's on your Saturn, it could cement something into your life. Or you could hit a new milestone of, like, I'm solid, right? If it's, like, let's say it's on your moon, like, let's say you have a 2 degree Scorpio moon, it could be a really deep emotional, I feel like just something that's very, very transformational on the emotional levels. A very solid place inside of you where you really know who you are. And of course, you go with the opposition too. So anything, if you have anything 2 degrees. Now we only with eclipses, we only go within 0 to 2.5 degrees, 3 tops. I push it out to 3 sometimes, and it's only if it hits a personal planet or it lines up on a house cusp or a hot point. Like let's say you have 2 degrees Scorpio on your midheaven, is definitely going to affect your career. Let's say it's on your 4th house cusp down here at the IC, it would definitely affect your home life or your foundation. Your complete foundation could be very intensely transformed in some way. And 7th house cusp descendant, of course, is relationships, and ascendant rising sign. If you have a 2 degree Scorpio rising sign, that could be something that you attract from the outside that could help you. Maybe it would have to do with attracting support for a new project, or maybe you've been already in a place with other people where you're both sourced, or the whole group is sourced together in some way, and then it gets better. There's some new like inflow of cash or support. There's that possibility. So we don't have any negative aspects to this. We have the inconjunct, but these are weaker. The quincunxes, inconjuncts, they're weaker, but they are. To pay attention to them, we do have, the inconjunct to Jupiter. We can't look at this one because this one's different, but this one here. And that's the other thing too, is I usually, in someone's natal chart, I usually would only look at the conjunction, so when it's like right on a personal planet, or the opposition, and only within that 0 to 2.5, 3 degree orb at the most. So really, really tight, we're talking 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees, maybe 5 degrees Scorpio in a conjunction, a joining, or an opposition, right? So anything in Taurus. But usually the way another thing is sometimes I would use a square, but only if it's a personal planet. So like let's say it's the, you have all of this here, and it's squaring, your sun or your moon, right? So if you have your sun or your moon at, in Capricorn, right? There's that possibility. But it's still, usually I just go with the opposition and the conjunctions. And then the other thing that you want to do is look and see in your chart where you have 2 degrees Scorpio in which houses, or which house, and then which opposite house you will have in Taurus. So let's just go with the 8th house here that it's naturally in, because this is a 0 degrees Aries chart. So if you have this line up in your 8th house, there could be some, change that happens for the better or worse with your resources, because the 8th house is all about resources. It's also, just think sex, death, taxes, 8th house, psychic abilities, things like that, regeneration, rebirth, are all Scorpio 8th house situations. So there could be changes there, but it could just be that there's new influx, because we remember, even though it's a new moon, even though it's a partial solar eclipse, primarily, first off, it's a new moon. And with new moons, what we want to do is set intentions for the next, up and through to the next full moon. But with it, when it comes to an eclipse, it happens eclipses happen, every 18 and a half, well, no, every year we're having eclipses, but every 18 and a half months things flip around. But you could look back and see 18 and a half years ago how the eclipse, because this happened 18 and a half years ago and will happen 18 and a half years from now again, because it repeats like through this sorrow cycle. And then there's another whole, like if you want to go on YouTube and look for videos on the Venus star point, that's another whole mind-blowing thing, because Venus is involved in this one this time. There's some brilliant astrologers. One of them I like is Maurice Fernandez. He's an evolutionary astrologer. He's wonderful. And he's so good at going back and researching, giving dates, and for years behind and moving forward into the future too. He's fantastic. So if you're interested now, but it's pretty intermediate to advanced astrology, but you'll still learn a lot, and he's fascinating, and he goes slow, and you can take notes, or you can, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you can always speed our voices up or down if you ever want within the YouTube controls. Okay. So let's see. Anything else do I want to say? Just look and see where 2 degrees Scorpio is in your chart, and then whatever house that lands in is where the changes will be coming through. But you can also you can look back in your mind and in your, figure it out 18 and a half years ago, what was going on in your life. And it always gets better. Things don't get worse. Things get better because we grow. Unless you're, like I said, dirtbag politician that's only into things for money, and it's money and profit over people and lies to make that money and hold that power, then you're going to have trouble. If you're like that, you're going to have trouble. You're Rudy Giuliani and Clarence Thomas and Donald John Trump and Mitch McConnell and all these other people that like to control. And then we also have the apathetic ones that are part of the problem too, which have gone into the dark side through complicity, because that's another form of darkness too, right? Like Hitler would not have been able to do what he did if it had not been for all the complicity. Of course, then there were a lot of people that agreed with him, so there's that. But anyway, let's see. What else? Yeah, I'm not going to go into the full moon lunar eclipse until we're into that week, because it's too much. But what I will do is go with this one. So I left this one, with my location, because it doesn't matter where it is. Because this information here is flowing into this center wheel, which is our Constitution, United States Constitution. So here's a good example of, so with our USA Constitution, we have an Aquarius ascendant, 8 degrees Aquarius ascendant. So what's lining up? Well, we have a Saturn return. We have Mars on Jupiter. So there's a lot of information. Remember that square to Neptune we were talking about before, or it's up here in the 8th house of our resources with each other, right? Sex, death, taxes. We could put the IRS in here. Mars squaring Neptune. We could put the FBI in here. Any secret societies in this house. FBI, CIA, NSA, you know. DOJ would be more ninth house. But you can see what is in the ninth house here. And even at this 2 degrees cusp and the sun, let's see, 2 degrees 24 minutes. Yeah, still in the 8th house. So secrets, resources into secrets. And then harmony and unity coming into courts of law. The 9th house is about courts of law. And the polarity here within the USA Constitution is between courts of law and information and learning, right? The 9th house is about, I love the 9th house because it's about intuition, divination. It has to do with spiritual law, man-made law, and so it makes perfect sense that it's shown up in this chart, and that Saturn squaring the nodes I've been talking about. I've got an unequal house set up here, so it doesn't look like it. You have to go with a number. So Saturn at 18 is squaring the south node at 13 and the north node at 13 here. So the 3rd house is our community. It has to do with our learning. It has to do with what is teaching us, right? How we're negotiating reality, how we're tracking patterns, and we're talking money, and we're talking, control, things like that. So that's how it's showing up in our USA Constitution chart. And that's just, this is with a node. But when it comes to the nodal placements, when it comes to the eclipse, I feel like women are out not secretly, but they're early voting because of the reproductive rights because the 8th house, remember, sex, death, birth, rebirth, reproductive rights, birth control. And Mercury is right there on. Now this would happen because Mercury moves around so quick, and except for the retrogrades, it's like a year. It takes only about a year. So every year we're going to get hit with this, or get that hit of Mercury on Neptune. But yeah, it's making those decisions based on what's the truth. And Mercury's on the other side a little bit. It's a few degrees away from Neptune. So yeah, the lies are coming out. It's not like we're approaching. It's heading in the other direction, and it's cooking up towards conjunct the sun. So, man, wow. So yeah, so the new moon solar eclipse is in the 8th house and affecting, basically how do we want to move forward in a way of do we want to go deep into a place where we can trust, or are we going to just constantly be living in the fear of betrayal? Well, that depends on who you vote for, because you know what's going to happen if you vote for the GOP. If you vote for the GOP, they're going to take away birth control, and it'll be a national, national abortion ban will be set back 50 years and even before. But then again, we'll still get the drugs from Mexico. We'll find a workaround until we can rectify the situation. But why go through that? Do we need to go through that intensity? I don't think so. If you vote for the GOP, they are going to take away Social Security. They are going to take away Medicare and Medicaid. Basically, anything to keep more money so that they can just keep it in their pockets, I guess, but they don't work. They don't work, so it's like, and again, the spiritual laws, the forces of expansion and contraction and stasis, well, they're living in contraction. How can you function if you live in a state of contraction? It defies spiritual, universal principles, cosmic laws of the universe, so it won't work. And we're at that place of, it's not working anymore. That's what's going on here. So just quickly with the other transits, Mars is coming around to help heal. And then in the fifth house does have to do, again, with, it's the will. It has to do with the will of the people. The South Node Mars natally there, of course, that fight for the will of the people. And then we have, Cancer. What is most sacred is the family, but also what is most sacred is to be able to control or grow, or, because Cancer is all about growing and nurturing and caring. And our, South Node, when the Constitution was created, was at 1 degrees Cancer. Mars at 3 degrees Cancer. So that being in the fifth house is how we want to create our reality, because that's what the fifth house is all about. It's children. It's fifth house there's a lot there, but primarily it is about our creative self-expression, to put it in a nutshell. With Jupiter there, it's about healing, healing the way we negotiate, expanding the way we negotiate, expanding the way we think outside the box, usually, questioning things, healing and opening up and expanding children, youth. Well, I'm speaking of Gemini, children, and it's in the house of children, and being more young, learning new things, committing to being seen and heard and understood is what's going on here. And there's a lot of energy there. And Mars is going to sit right there for all this time. And it's going to square for months. And it's going to square Neptune for months. So, yeah. The lies will be revealed. And more and more lies revealed. It's cleanup on aisle 45. And that Saturn to Pluto is, like those power structures. New laws, new rules new laws on the power structures, so that they're for the people. Not just the apathetic few, but the danger is there. And we do have Pluto retrograde and Saturn retrograde natally too. And they would not go direct by progression. Well, Saturn would, but Pluto, no, 250 years. But then again, this is our first, we will have our first Pluto return when Pluto hits 14 degrees Aquarius there, which won't be for years. But, yeah, this Saturn return is, that's actually pretty, it would be like, what, the 8th one? Right? Because every 30 years. Yeah. That's pretty intense. 8s are powerful numbers. Uranus will move in the next 3 or 4 years down here. That'll be a past life point. And then here we have the polarity of Taurus and Scorpio as the, it's like the roots in Taurus. And so positive pleasure, preservation, self-preservation, and then transforming. So the way we participate is so that everyone gets to have that. It's the pursuit of happiness, right? Yeah, Neptune moving into the second. It probably we'll probably have well, I'm thinking movies and the media will be, once it moves into the second house, will probably be even more valuable and powerful. But anyway, we could sit on that chart for a long time. Let me move it over here because I'll save that for later. So let's move into Wednesday. Okay. Wednesday, you can see that the moon is in Scorpio. It has made it across. So Mars trining Mercury is still the same. Everything else over here is the same backdrop, right? Neptune to Mercury, the adjustment there in communication with your spiritual self, source energy, or lies, delusion, subterfuge, obfuscation. But Neptune dissolves all that stuff eventually, but who knows how many lifetimes it takes. That's on an individual case-by-case basis. So, but I want to focus in on the Scorpio moon, because that new moon has now crossed over Venus and the South Node, and there's some release of some wisdom from the past. And it's in exact opposition to Uranus, right? I would just bet that a whole lot of people got out and voted early, and now maybe they have something to say, and their values are more solid than ever. That's actually really wonderful. The moon is squaring Saturn, and now you can see that my program finally kicked that back in, but it's because the moon popped in there. But it should be there, right? Because look, it's there to Uranus, right? It's there to the South Node as well. This should be a double red line going here, okay? So this intensifies the Scorpio moon, which is intense already, because remember, Scorpio is all about going deep and trying to make sure that you're with people that you can trust, and you're in situations that are trustworthy, or maybe you don't mind it that, well, think of it this way. If you're an ER doctor or nurse, or both, just think of that maybe you work as an emergency medical person on any level. If you don't have the support group, if things don't, let's say you work on a ambulance, if you don't have things on the truck that work right, or let's say you're a firefighter, if you don't have things on the hook and ladder tiller, all that other stuff, if things don't work right, if you can't get the hose out and the water through it, you're going to be in crisis. So you have to be in situations that you can trust. That's what Scorpio is all about. So once you know that you're in a situation where your surroundings are trustworthy, then you can create safety. And now, if that doesn't explain the polarity of Scorpio and Taurus, I don't know what does. Because it's all about creating safety and security, and then from there, there's trust and there's pleasure, because it supports life, right? Taurus is all about life and being. I mean, Aries is like, I'm here. Taurus is like, I have a body, and there can be immense pleasure in it, or there can be a whole lot of pain. And that's the Taurus-Scorpio polarity there. So with the moon in Scorpio every month, we get that opportunity to work those issues through. And, it's good to be in trustworthy situations. So with the moon squaring Saturn for this morning, I feel like there's tension in figuring out who we can trust. It feels to me like it's the political situation, but on a personal level, again, you could be bumping heads with somebody, or at least bumping up against the consciousness of, do I trust this person who's in so-called charge, who's in this position of authority? Are they trustworthy? And if they're not, you're not going to like it. unless you don't care and you're getting paid really well, and then you don't care. But at some point in your evolution, you will care because you don't want to support someone who's not aligned with truth and love. So, yeah. Now, with Mercury square Pluto here, there could be some Mercury in a square to Pluto, because Pluto can be obsessive. There could be some obsessive thoughts, but maybe you're obsessively trying to figure out who's trustworthy and who's not, so you can go in the right direction. There could be more, especially with all the Scorpio energy here too, and because remember Pluto rules Scorpio, so it's kind of, we could put the planet Pluto in there. But Mercury, the mind, squaring Pluto and Capricorn, we're going to be a whole lot more suspicious. Now, if you go into the state of thinking that nothing's going to ever change, and because Merrick Garland hasn't done something yet, or maybe he does by now, heck if I know, I just feel like I have to trust that he'll do his thing when he can, because remember, Merrick Garland has a zero policy of losing. He doesn't lose. He gets his man. He gets his person. He gets the group. He gets them. So the only way he can do that is to make sure he has them. That's what Scorpio's all about. That's what Pluto's all about. So there can be, maybe he's obsessively, because he's a Scorpio, all of this is probably affecting him. But I don't have an exact time. We could look at his chart, though, and look at it later if you guys want. I don't know if there's enough of you that want that. But, yeah, the South Node in Scorpio is definitely affecting him. And maybe this full moon, or I'm sorry, new moon, solar eclipse, is affecting him as well. It has to. But anyway, this Mercury square Pluto is like right in that territory of the DOJ getting their secrets out. And they are super, super suspicious, and they are obsessively going for the details. And we're talking power struggles right here. It's not good if you're Rudy Giuliani, because this planet is on your South Node. It's not good if you're Clarence Thomas, because Pluto is on your ascendant. And, now this could be really good for someone else who's been working in the light, because if you're having that same transit on your South Node, it can be so powerful in purging out anything that's in the way of your power. It can be deeply surrendering and transformative for someone who's working in the light. Everything that I've said as far as how bad it could be for the dark ones, the people working in the dark, we have just as good and powerful transits for those who've been working to heal and get in touch with doing their own shadow work and clearing things out, right? And that's especially true today with the moon trining Neptune. And after it had gone through the sojourn and crossing over the South Node, this is probably a really good morning for waking up and having some dream information come through. A really good morning for meditation, as long as you can keep your mind quiet. I wouldn't say turn on the news first or do any of that other stuff. I'd say, just do a little bit before you even get out of bed if you can, or you have to get up and pee, get back in bed, or get up and pee, and maybe brush your teeth or whatever, and sit down and meditate. Even if it's only 5 minutes, there is so much here that can come through. Or if you're like me, it's like I have to literally have a dream journal right next to me, and if I even move around too much, I can lose it. And a little snippet of information can give you a world of, or a little snippet of a dream can give you a world of information to help heal some little aspect in your soul. Because your guidance and your guides they're always coming through. And maybe it's something like a download for, like, maybe you're writing a book, or maybe you're creating a movie, maybe you're writing a screenplay, things like that. Or maybe art, guidance is coming through. Intuitive hits of any type. Sometimes you just wake up, knowing something that you didn't know before, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. You didn't have any dream about it, but you just wake up knowing it. Things like that. That's Neptune, especially trining the moon in the south node there. So let's see, what else for this day? The moon in Scorpio will help us break free on some level because of Uranus here in Taurus. It's an exact opposition. It's really powerful. And this Jupiter retrograde, Jupiter's getting ready to go retrograde later on too. I think it's on the 28th. So, because you can see Jupiter's at 0, it's going to go back to 29 degrees. It'll only retrograde back to 28 in the retrogradation process, but it's still, Jupiter conjunct Neptune can give us some more, expansion in healing, and it can be really good for creating. These transits are excellent for creating works of art. They really are. So go for whatever you're interested in. So let's see, all the other transits are great. Breakthroughs, creative breakthroughs. The moon rules the women and the public, intuition, family. So there can be breakthroughs in any of those areas. So, okay, so let me go ahead and move to Thursday. And Thursday, the moon's now in Sag. So again, intuition, moving forward. Sag rules so many things. Big animals, horses, different countries, foreign cultures, intuition, sports, storytelling. It's or movement oriented. So we are going to feel like moving. And it trines Jupiter, and by 10:10 tonight, Jupiter starts going retrograde. Well, it stations, in the stations retrograde, and then it'll start going back. But this morning, the moon is trining Jupiter. So there's expansive movement, and then I think it's going to be creatively and spiritually. For the creative spiritual levels, kindred spirits and working with your guides and your guardian angels, and or maybe you like working with crystals because they're beautiful, and you start learning more about crystals. And with Mercury Mars in Mercury-related Gemini, you could be learning more and more and more about anything you're interested in. And especially with that trine to Mercury, that's really beautiful too. And that's been building up. So there's a nice flow of information happening there to help make decisions and to open those bridges. Libra's the bridge. Opens up and helps you to merge with something and learn even more. Like you really get it. Like for me, I have to, sometimes reading words is like, I'm not getting it, but if I hear somebody say it, I get it. And then if I hear somebody say something and I write it down, I really get it. But some people work really well just by the written word, and that's it. But I don't know, I think to learn something more deeply, you have to get it on all three levels, It's to come, your eyes or your inner eye, third eye, and hear it, and then physically write it out or draw it, whatever it is. So let's see. Okay, with the moon, it's just the trine over to Jupiter aspect this morning, and that's it. So let's go ahead and move on, because everything else is the same. Yeah. Oh, wait. No, that in conjunct to that quincunx, yep, those are the same. That's right. Okay. So Friday. Friday, what's different here is we only have the difference of the moon. Although you can see Venus is getting really close to the south node. And the sun will catch up as well, too. And then all of these, the sun and Venus will also be opposing Uranus moving forward too. So that's an extra oomph. So the moon came in first, and now the sun and Venus is going to give us some more power that way. Of everything I've already, said. But with the moon still in Sag, midway through Sag, it's trining Chiron. So there's intuitive healing is the aspect for the day there. And intuitive movement to help to get inside of some opportunities to stabilize some area of your life there with that sextile to Saturn. I love it. Yeah, and you can see that now Saturn does have that square coming into the south node, and Venus is going to make its way up there too. So again, we're building up to like more power to the feminine, and to which is inside of each one of us. Our feminine side receives, our masculine side gives. But we all go around giving and receiving all the time. And when you get inside that energy, there's no difference between giving and receiving. It's all one. But, in human terms, we're going around these different genders, bodies. It's like, ugh. But we're not really separate. We're not separate. Our masculine and feminine within is not separate. But there's more power in reception going on with this transit here. So I really like that. Now the moon is in an quincunx to Uranus this morning. So there's an adjustment needed in order to move forward. And I'm feeling like it's an adjustment of safety first. It's possible that there's a new invention that comes out in the safety front, or food, because we have to remember that Taurus is all about food. So is Cancer, but especially Taurus. It's like, the baby's here, oops, we got to feed it, right? So there could be some new inventions or adjustments that are made that helps move forward, maybe with the food industry. Yeah, hopefully nothing will ever happen again like that happened with the infant formula debacle. That's on the FDA, and it's mostly on the FDA. Yeah, right? New rules, new laws, enforcement. I mean, the laws don't matter if they're not enforced. So, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead to Saturday, the 29th. And you can see now where Jupiter is in Pisces. But again, like I said, it's only going to go back to 28 degrees. So, but it's still, it's close enough. It's still within orb there. So Jupiter together with Neptune, there could be a COVID blow up. Hopefully that inconjunct between the moon, like we had yesterday, and Uranus could be someone saying, hey, yeah, okay, I guess legally it's not a pandemic anymore, but if even 500 people or 300 people are still dying in the USA in a day, is that not enough? How about just one person dying from COVID? It's enough to me. But these transits are happening worldwide. So, but anyway, I try to stay in my own lane over here in the USA. The moon is at 29 degrees Sag. It will not be long before it gets into Capricorn. And I actually did run another, well, I'll tell you when I get there. Let's stick with this one first. 29 degrees is like it's not like, it is the anaretic degree of Sag. What does that mean? It means it's intense and fruitful and, yeah. So the truth coming out in a way that I think it's like stubborn truth that really shakes some people up. Wow. And Jupiter conjunct Neptune, so Jupiter expands and blows things up. It's Neptune and Pisces that's our COVID planet, right? And it's squaring Mars. So there's some information coming out about that. And then again, like I said already, an adjustment up to the power structures. But you know, if you want to just go around with no mask on and take a risk on getting a new strain of I don't know how many strains of Omicron are we going to have, basically. But it looks to me like there's going to be a new one coming out. Just in time for Halloween. Great, right? So, you know, make your holiday plans accordingly, because I really don't feel like it's a cool thing to get on a plane and bring a new strain of COVID home to a grandparent or a parent or an elderly parent or anyone who is immune compromised. And, you know, you tested negative when you got on the plane, but that doesn't mean you're going to test negative when you get off. And you can some of the tests don't work. So you have to play it very, very safe. So keep the mask on the entire time you're on a plane, right? But then again, if it's not an N95 mask, forget about it. And not everybody's going to be wearing those kind. Not even everyone is going to wear a mask, period, because the airline company or the airline is not making you do that because they'd rather have your money than your safety. Think about that. For me, it would be a road trip or nothing, right? We have the phone, we have the internet, we have Skype, we have Zoom, we have FaceTime, we have Google Meets, we have all these other opportunities to connect. Does it have to be in person? You know, when it comes to your life or their life, somebody dying, just think about it. That is precisely this polarity here of Taurus to Scorpio. I don't know, you know, I'm the weirdo with 4 planets in my South Node in Cancer, so I'm like safety first. But most people aren't. So, you know, if you're not, you probably turned me off already. So, okay, what else? So, double sesquisquare to the North Node in Uranus coming from the moon. Well, I think I just told you the truth about that. Because I think it has to do with COVID. I think something's going to come out in the news about some more, you know, maybe a new outbreak somewhere in, you know, it could be any lead up to today for that. But other than that, there is a sextile. So sextiles are always opportunities, and we actually have the aspect of the architect here. So we're coming from the moon. The apex is Mercury. So Mercury, information that can create a bridge to, and it's 29 degrees Libra, a bridge to peace, a bridge to harmony, so that we can make those decisions accordingly and move forward. So again, information, harmony, information, relationships, information here, lots of information with Mars, in that easy flow that gives you the opportunity to make those decisions based in truth. Okay. Yeah. Everything's the same. There's that little semi-square to the South Node. Yeah, again, it's everything I already said. The moon has taught us some lessons from the past about COVID. So it's like enter at your own risk. Or maybe this is a haunted house. Enter at your own risk. Do you want to be scared out of your wits? Okay, go ahead, go for it. I know my kids used to love it, but they'd always push me to go first, and I'd just be cracking up, and they'd be jumping behind me, even though they were 2 feet taller than me. I don't know. So, anyhow, Saturday, the moon's in, why did I put it at 12:36? I changed the time for some reason. Why? Because the moon entered Capricorn. Maybe I just screwed up. Mercury, Sun, this, yeah. This is why, right here. Because Mercury moved into Scorpio, that's why. So we're no longer Mercury in Libra. Now so again, man, talk about that intensity. And it's all building to move to catch up to that South Node. So, and by the time that does, we're going to have that full moon lunar eclipse. But over here, the moon, so by November 8th, so by voting day, the moon will be over here in Taurus. I think, oh my goodness, is it 16? Oh wait, I have that chart somewhere. Hold on. Here we go. Full moon total solar eclipse, 3:02 a.m. November 8th. And it's going to be 16, that's what I thought. Yeah, 16 degrees. It's going to be conjunct Uranus. Energized to vote. Right early in the morning. Okay, so let's see. So Mercury in Scorpio, I don't know. You know what, you guys? There could be some pranking ideas coming through for Halloween. This could turn out to be one of the most fun Halloweens for kids, but still be careful because But then again, if they have their little masks on underneath a regular mask for Halloween, then they're doubly protected. Especially because now, everybody can get the little N95 masks, or are they called 94, I think? I don't know. Whatever they're way, 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 way more protective than what we had in the beginning. So the moon is sextile the sun. So there's an opportunity to really create something solid with the moon. The moon in Capricorn wants to work and get things done. And there's an opportunity with the sun to work in an intense way, right? Because the sun brings in that energy to go deep and do it right and get it done. I feel like it could be one of the most fun Halloweens. And yeah, and Venus, the opposition here, all of that is the same. The moon, sesquisquare Uranus does bring in, only thing I can say about this Saturday for sure that I can bet money on is that it's a work day. It's a heavy-duty work day, and there's going to be this stubborn need to get something done because you see it, you have a vision, and you really want it done, and there's lots of energy coming through. And you need to take that action because you really want it in form, and you want something solid and stable and done. All I can say is be careful because you're you'll heal up no matter what, no matter how much you tax your body and get sore, you'll heal up, but it might take you all week if you're as old as me. It might take you the next entire week if you're as old as I am. If you overdo, because the moon squaring Jupiter, man, right? It's like you have a vision here, you know what you want, and you really, really want it, and you've got the energy to do it because it's coming through you in a big way, but be careful. So be careful. Be careful, especially if you're like climbing up on ladders or putting up lights or doing things like that, because we don't want any accidents happening. But yeah, it's like get her done. God, that was darky. Anyway, that's it, you guys. I'm gonna stop before I say something stupid or dumber than I've already said. Okay, take good care. Have a really happy Halloween. Well, actually, I'll be back before Halloween, but yeah. But I feel like it's here already, Saturday, the day before or 2 days before. So have a good week. Okay, bye.